You're listening to the #1 podcast for nonprofit leaders, getting your nonprofit fully funded. This is the Fundraising Masterminds Podcast.
Would you rather have $1,000 now or $10 a month for a lifetime? I'll take the $10 a month for a lifetime every time. I have people that made commitments to my wife and I in 1984, $50 a month, $100 a month. Those people have continued on over 40 years, Jason. I mean, if I want that firm foundation, I've got to do the things that are going to keep a person for a lifetime.
Welcome back to this episode of the Fundraising Masterminds Podcast. We are super excited that you are here with us today. Today, we're going to be talking about how to build a strong foundation for your nonprofit. My name is Jason Galasinski, and with me, my co-host, Jim Dempsey.
Hey, Jason. I am so excited about this episode today.
Yeah. And Jim, you are got over 40 years of development experience in your background, and I've got 20. So collectively, together, we have over 60 years of development experience working with nonprofits.
Right.
And I think you are qualified to talk about this subject of building strong foundations for a nonprofit, because the nonprofit that you are the chief development officer for has a pretty strong foundation, I would say.
Well, God has definitely blessed us over the last 75 years.
Just so everyone knows, Jim oversees a $750 million budget, annual budget, not cumulative over 40 years. That's a pretty big budget to have to fundraise and develop for. And the organization you work for is 100% grassroots funding. You're not getting government grants or anything like that.
And a great majority of it is individuals raising their own personal support. So we don't pay a lot of salaries to people from the standpoint that we don't amass a lot of money and pay people. Individuals like my wife and I have to raise our own personal support.
Yeah. And so Jim knows a thing or two about development, about how to develop your nonprofit and to take it to the next level. So today we really wanted to dive into this subject of kind of short-term versus long-term. We kind of broke it up into two parts. So like part one is going to be about short-term versus long-term fundraising. And then part two, we're going to talk specifically about how to build a strong foundation for your nonprofit.
Is this going to be over 2 episodes, Jason?
No, we're just going to have kind of 2 sections.
Part 1 and part 2 in the same. Great.
Right.
That sounds terrific.
Before we get started, if you would do me a favor and hit that subscribe button, that is going to ensure that you get future episodes. Because if you're a nonprofit leader and you're running a nonprofit or you're new to this world, you're definitely going to want to get some sound advice. And I'm a little bit biased of our channel, but I think we have some pretty good advice on how to run nonprofits and how to.
We are the #1 channel for the nonprofit executives.
Yeah. So you definitely are going to want to be around for future episodes, and you can check out our past episodes as well. Jim, there's really, in the nonprofit world, I find that there's really 2 different kinds of people. There are people who have short-term visions, and there's people who have long-term visions.
Right.
And as we're kind of thinking through this a little bit, the analogy that kind of came to my mind is like you're either building a sandcastle or you're building a skyscraper.
Right.
The sandcastle can look nice. It can be pretty. You can get like trenches of water around it. You can put flags on and get it all looking great. But as soon as the wave comes in, the whole thing kind of erodes out and just falls to the ground, right?
Right. Craters.
A skyscraper is something that you put foundational poles deep down in the ground and you build that thing up, and that the winds can come and that thing can sway, and it's not going down without like a major force, to bring it down.
Right.
But the skyscraper is going to be around a lot longer than the sandcastle.
Yeah.
So when it comes to nonprofits, we really want to build a nonprofit that is going to outlive you and have a strong foundation that will carry forward for generations to come.
Stand the test of time, Jason.
So like Bill Bright, for example, started Crew, the organization that you work for,
in 1951.
And he's already gone to be with the Lord and moved his permanent residency off of this earth.
Yeah.
And so
the organization is bigger and better than it ever was today. So
I'm imagining that he probably couldn't even imagine, maybe he could.
Well, I think it was his hope and desire that the organization would continue. I remember he always said he didn't want to develop a monument to himself, but to continue on for as long as God would have us continue. That was a desire.
And to really keep the focus. You know, like so many organizations, they pivot, right?
Yeah,
like
there's a term called mission drift, where people will move off their mission. You look at Salvation Army to a degree, Red Cross, YMCA, a number of those organizations that started as solid Christian organizations have deviated from their original mission.
Yeah, so we want to build a nonprofit that will stand the test of time, that will be that skyscraper, and avoid that mission drift.
Yeah.
So we're going to be talking about that today. Last week we did an episode about starting a nonprofit. How do you know if you're ready to start a nonprofit?
Right.
So this actually might be kind of a good continuation from that topic. So it's like, well, if you've determined that you're ready to start a nonprofit, then let's talk about the kind of nonprofit you want to have.
Right.
Do you want to have a nonprofit where you're constantly reacting to things, or do you want to have something that you have a strategic plan, you know where you're going, and you're like building towards the future?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You've got that solid foundation. You've put that pole in the ground and said, this thing is not moving.
Yeah. Let's talk about the short-term mindset versus the long-term mindset. Now, these are kind of related to the areas of fundraising or getting funds, but the short-term fundraising mindset has to do with transactional focus.
Yeah, one area, that's right. One area of short-term fundraising mindset is a transactional. I've used so many times that analogy of an ATM. An ATM is not important until you need money, and then you search all over the universe to find that ATM. But once you find it, you get your money, you're done with it, and you don't think about it again. That is all about short term. That is fundraising. It's not friend-raising, and it's definitely not development. It's transactional. You have a transaction and move on from that transaction. And that's one of the biggest mistakes, and why it is a short-term strategy, is that it is just helping to solve your problem right now. All of us have heard the term, you can, give a man a fish and they'll feed for a day. You teach them how to fish and they'll eat for a lifetime. The short-term transactional is just providing for your needs today and not for the long term.
Yeah. Well, and it also, a lot of people that have this mindset of transactional, their focus on fundraising is that it's kind of a necessary evil.
Oh, right. Absolutely.
Like, I've got to do it because I got to do it, but I don't really want to do it. And they're kind of like, in a sense, like resenting the fact that they have to fundraise. And that's where you get things like, silly posts like, hey, I'm going to save you some time by not doing an event. I don't want to have to guilt you into something. So I'm just going to, expect that you should give, I'll do you a favor by not doing an event. You just give me money and then I'll save you the time from having to, and that kind of thing. Yeah. That person there is focused on transactional. Yeah. Right. They're like, I just need money. Yeah. So I'm just I don't care about you. Yeah. I just help me, do my job. And, that's one area. Another thing that you see a lot is, in grocery stores, where they're like, would you like to top up your amount, add another 50 cents and, give to the Ronald McDonald Charity Fund or whatever. Sure. And it's like, well, I don't know what they do, but I guess it's supposed to help kids or something. Yeah.
So you give a couple coins here or there. Right. Even selling cookies or selling products is very short term in that. It's kind of the difference between dating and marriage, Jason. Dating is a lot of short term interactions with people. Marriage is a long-term relationships with people. Yeah. So you could do a lot of dating, but there's a point where if you want to succeed, you're going to have to marry someone and you're going to have that long-term relationship.
Yeah. So you're focused on getting quick results,
Right.
Not sustainable relationships,
Yeah.
right? So
that's the bottom line.
Another thing with short-term fundraising mindset is shallow planning. So you're emphasizing short-term goals.
Yep.
You don't have a plan for the future.
Well, it's little or no planning at all. I can't tell you how many dinners I've gone to over the years where people have said, help us keep the doors open. Help us, just survive through the next day.
Yeah.
Even help me pay my rent for February. That's all short-term methods of raising money. You're just thinking in the short term. And frankly, nobody wants to give to the short term. They all want to give to something that's solid, that's strong, that's rock solid in the ground.
Yeah. Another way to know if you have kind of a short-term mindset is if you are emotional and impulsive. So you're making decisions based on urgency of emotions, you're reactive, and you're not proactively engaging with people and having relationships.
Yeah. You're in a way, you're vacillating all over the plate. You're all over the board. One day you think you want to expand your pregnancy center. The next day you think you're barely able to keep the doors of your first building open.
Yeah.
The next day you want to go medical. The next day you decide you're going to sell your ultrasound. I mean, you're all over the board. Where long-term planning, you're not tossed around like waves in the ocean. You're not letting those waves stand the test of time.
Yeah. Another short-term mindset thing is that you're focused on quantity, not quality of relationships. So it's all about, you refer to it as the myth of the multiples.
Right.
I believe we had a podcast episode called The Myth of the Multiples.
We did.
At some point in time. And the idea, just tell us about what that is.
The myth of the multiples essentially says, if you get enough people giving the same amount of money, then you're going to be able to achieve your goal. If we can get 125 people to give $50 a month, all of our problems are solved. Well, we've found over the years that just asking people to give the same amount across the board is a recipe for disaster. Some people, $50 a month may be too little for people. Some individuals might be too much for people. And so you've got to take into consideration individual people's position, their situation at the time, not just treat everyone exactly the same.
Yeah. Or another possible symptom of whether you have short-term fundraising or long-term is that you've neglected to bathe things in prayer.
Absolutely.
This isn't, what you're doing doesn't require any faith. This is something that you can just do on your own. It's like a quick fix.
Yeah.
It's not, it's like, I need a couple $1,000s. I think I'll just, post something on Facebook, or I'll just try to, do something on my own. But it's not like a faith stretching thing that you're really having to agonize over in prayer.
Yeah, you're trusting your own methods, your own strategies. You want to control things. This is going to be solved. I don't need to pull God into this. I don't want to pull God into this. I got this. All that is a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. And then finally, short-lived results.
Right.
So short-term fundraising mindset gives you short-term results.
Yeah, absolutely. And people want to give to something that's long-term, that's sustaining over time. It's going to make a difference. It's great and it's important that I'm going to reach one person today. But if I've got the opportunity to reach hundreds, thousands, even hundreds of thousands of individuals over a year or over a few years, that is going to sustain you.
Well, sometimes we have people come to us and they say, I can't believe that you raised over $100,000 or more at your Perfect Vision Dinner events. Like, we only raised $10,000 or we only raised $5,000, and we tried to do a gala, but it just didn't work.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, you probably had short-term goals. You probably were not asking the right way.
Or didn't have any goals at all in that. Yeah, absolutely. And that's typically what we find is that there's so little clarity. Help me keep my school open. Help me keep my pregnancy center open this month. Help us pay the rent for April or May. That's, all that is a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. Well, that's a good picture for short term. Let's talk about what it would look like to have a long-term fundraising approach.
Right.
So we've got 6 things here. Number 1, we want to have a relational focus.
Yeah, it's all about a long-term perspective on things. I would rather actually people focus in on going deep relationing with someone before they even start talking about money. I understand there are outliers. There's exceptions where you worked for 6 months to get an appointment with Mr. CEO or Mrs. Megabucks, and you have to make an ask to those people. But you'll find that you have greater success when you build a relationship, when you listen, you care about the person, you find out what their interests are, you find out where their interests and your mission intersect, and that you care about them. You're going to get a lot more money in the long term by doing that and caring about them.
Yeah. Number 2, purposeful planning.
Yeah.
So what we mean by this is that you want to emphasize a vision with your plan.
Yeah.
Right? You want to have at least a 3 to 5 year vision
Yeah.
that you can present to people.
Yeah. Yeah, it's planning with a purpose. It really is, that you are looking to the future, but not just looking ahead. You're looking ahead with some purposeful position that you want to eventually get to the point where we want this to exist. We interviewed John Cooper, who was the executive director of Niagara Gospel Mission in an earlier broadcast this year. And John said that he wants to see the long-term focus where these individuals are not only led to Christ, but also that they're sent out as missionaries into the world. And that, to me, is a vision with purpose.
Yeah. Logical and strategic.
Yeah.
So making decisions based on logical and reality, not just a whimsical, like, this sounds good.
Yeah.
So
Well,
it has to
and-
make sense,
yeah,
right? Just like if you were to start a business, you have to have a product that solves a problem that people would want to buy. You can't just say, well, I want to create a business, and you have this idea for a product, but you have no customer in your mind of who's going to buy that product.
Right.
Or you have a service that you want to provide, but you're the only person that you think might be helpful, want to use that service.
Yeah.
So you have to have a strategic, logical plan in place.
Yeah. Well, I've seen too many ministries where the leader essentially pulls the number out of the air. Jason, I would love for you to give our organization $1 million. And they'll even present that, boy, I wish I had $1 million, what I could do with that. Well, if they flip the script on you and say, well, before I give you $1 million, I need a plan for that. Well, just give me the $1 million and then I'll show you how we use it. It doesn't work that way. People want to give after they've seen a plan. They don't give you the money and then expect you to show them the plan afterwards. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
But too often ministries are that way. So they'll pluck a number out of the air, and your partners are not dumb. The individuals who give significant gifts, they've achieved great success because they've planned, they have strategies, and when you don't present that to them and you show them that you don't have a plan, that you just pulled a number out of the air, they're not going to give to you.
Yeah. No, that's great. Number 5, faith and prayer. So you got to rely on the Lord.
Yeah.
You got to keep everything bathed in prayer.
Yeah.
So important that you are feeling called to this organization that you are serving, right? If you don't feel called by the Lord, then, what is your motivation? Why are you doing this? And so people with a long-term fundraising mindset, long-term development mindset, they feel called to this purpose. This is why they are on the earth. This is what they want to do. Like if you were retired and you had all the money in the bank in the world, you would be doing this, because that's what God put you on the earth to do. And so it's so important that you feel called and that you are bathing everything in prayer. And we really want to be partnering with the Lord in our organization.
Yeah, I can tell you this without a doubt. My wife and I would not be in ministry or not survived 41 years of ministry without being called and trusting in God for that. There's a scripture verse that says, faithful is he who calls you, and he will bring it to pass. That has been our rock. That's been our foundation. God called us, he will bring it to pass. When times have gotten hard, when they've gotten rocky, when finances have gotten difficult, I always lean into the fact that God's going to provide. I spent many a September and October concerned about what year end was going to be like, because things got a little lean at that time of the year. And by the end of the year, God had provided. And at one point, I finally just had to say, it doesn't help to be concerned and to, just be hesitant through the year. Is God going to provide? If he's provided the first 40 years, what's leading me to believe he's not going to provide for the next 40 years? But it's so important that you're assured of your calling, because if you aren't assured of the calling, you can't be assured that he's going to provide.
Yeah. Well, the last thing is building a sustainable impact or a lasting impact, right? So we always say that one of the ways that you can know if you have a good vision is how much you're focused on the impact it's going to make on people's lives. Yeah. So if you're just focused on, I need money because I need to build this and I need to do that, I need to get this building and that building, it's like, well, why are you wanting to get all these things or do all these things? If it's not to make an impact in people's lives and to make a change in this world for the better, then the ministry or the nonprofit is probably not going to last very long. Because people see through that. People give to people justified by the cause.
That's right.
With the focus on, impacting people.
Right, exactly. Well, one of the reasons we have kids, Jason, is to leave a lasting legacy. You've got 10 kids, I've got 2. Our goal is to, train them up to be able to live a better life, to have a stronger walk with the Lord, to do better financially than we did. And it's the same thing with our ministries. We want to have a ministry that leaves a lasting legacy. And I want to give to ministries that have a lasting legacy. When I look at Crew's rich history of 75 years of ministry, that says to me, this is an organization that stood the test of time. And I want to give to those organizations versus a fly-by-night organization that just started. And I don't even know if they're going to be in existence a year from now. So that legacy, leaving a legacy, a heritage, a rich heritage is important to our partners.
Right.
Well, Jason, let's move on to the second part, which essentially is those strategies to build a successful foundation. Yeah. The first one is to start with the end in mind. And it is so important that we do look to the future. We talked about the fact that planning is important, that seeing a vision is important, that people give to that vision, and that always starts with the end in mind. You want to look down the road. The beauty of God's plan, the beauty of Scripture, the Old Testament into the New Testament, is that we can see God's plan all the way through. When you're living it, you don't necessarily see that plan, but God sees out into the future. There was a analogy that was used over time is that there's a difference between a dot and a line, is that the dot is what's happening in the moment. The line goes on forever. And that's what God sees. We see the immediate. God sees the eternal impact on that. And we want our partners to be able to see the eternal impact that your organization is having.
Yeah. Second thing we want to do is create a strategic development plan.
Yeah.
So what does that mean?
Well, it's so important, Jason. Not only do you need a plan for your organization, how you intend to do ministry, you also want to have a plan for development. If we say that development is all about relationships, how do we move someone who we just met to the point where we have a long, deep, rich relationship with that person? And it takes time. When I first got married, I looked at people who were married 30, 40, 50 years, and I thought, wow, could I ever get to that point? Well, here we are. My wife and I are getting ready to celebrate our 42nd anniversary, and 50 is not that far away from us. And I think, wow, it was amazing. And just the joy, the ups, the downs, of living life together with someone was just rich. I wouldn't trade it for $1 million.
No.
And we've got to be looking at that with our partners. And there's steps along the way. A long-term relationship doesn't happen. You've got to go through what we refer to as the development model. You've got to take people along a continuum and along a journey from barely knowing you to giving their first gift to their second gift to multiple gifts, to a monthly commitment, to mid-level, to major, mega, and ultra gifts. Those things are so important. And to get those people to include you in their will, to start to give their assets, to sell their business, and give you a portion of those proceeds. All those kinds of things take a lot of time, and it takes a plan to get there. It doesn't just happen that you have.
It doesn't just work by itself. You've got to have intentionality. You've got to know exactly how to do that. And that's one of the things that we do in our Winner's Circle program. We have a special 3-year coaching program that we don't talk about a lot on this podcast, but it's
by invitation only.
It's
Jason.
by invitation only. Yeah. It's only for our Perfect Vision Dinner graduates.
Yes.
And so you've got to have gone through the Perfect Vision Dinner program
and had a good measure of success.
Yeah. And you've got to have a minimum of 100,000 raised. And we actually have an award that we give out to people who graduate to the program, raise the 100,000. And then if you succeeded from that, then you qualify for the Winner's Circle.
Right.
And the Winner's Circle is a 3-year program where we walk you through exactly what you just said.
Yeah, how to create a plan, how to develop it, and all the key projects, programs, strategies involved in that model.
Yeah. So it's a great program, and it's wonderful to see all our students accelerating in that, and they're all doing excellent.
Yes.
I'm just thinking of one guy in our program. His name is Brian, who started an online Bible college many, many, many years ago, but he took our Perfect Vision Dinner mentorship program 2 years ago, raised his $100,000, joined the Winner's Circle, and now he's just accelerating. Did his second dinner and raised over $200,000. And he's just launching off like a rocket. And so that's really our goal for the Winner's Circle members, is to give you that strong foundation, so that we're teaching you not just the concepts, but we're actually telling you what to do every month.
Right.
If we were running your organization, this is what we would be doing every month. So people are just really doing well in that program.
Yeah. But the third area, Jason, you can do all those things, but if it isn't bathed in prayer, if God isn't in it, and trust me, I've done enough dinners over the years that I can just walk in, I can tell God isn't in it. Yeah. And it's amazing when I can. And that event is electric when God is in there, when God makes himself known. And it's so important that God is in that, because I've done some dinners where I've done everything right by man's standards, by my standards, but it doesn't get the amount of money I had hoped it would get. Yeah. And I've had times when it seemed that everything went wrong, but God was in it and it succeeded. Yeah. And so it's just so important that you bathe that in prayer, because I can tell you, when you start doing things right, and you get Satan's attention. I had a World War II ace pilot say, that you're getting over the target when the amount of anti-aircraft guns are sighted up on you. Yeah. It's so important that way. So when you start doing things right, Satan's going to attack you. And oftentimes I'll say, well, it's actually kind of good that you're seeing all these things happen wrong, because Satan doesn't want you to have this event. But it's so important that God is in it.
Yeah. Well, and one of my life verses that I keep going back to over and over and over is Matthew 6:33, which is seek first the kingdom and his righteousness, and everything else will be added unto you. Yeah. And it's just that idea, if we put God first in everything, not just on Sunday mornings, from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. or whatever. But we're putting him first in our finances. We're putting him first in our family. Yeah. We're putting him first in our free time. We're putting him first, with what we watch, with what we do, with what we say in our minds.
Try and do that with our podcast. We try and do that with Perfect Vision Dinner Strategy, all those things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so, I love Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your understanding, and all your ways acknowledge him. I just, it's so important that we put God first.
Yeah. Well, good. The next thing we wanted to focus on fundraising over fundraising. Now, this is a big one. We have a whole podcast episode dedicated to this subject called fundraising versus fundraising.
Yeah, it's one of our most popular podcasts. Yeah. And once again, it's all about the relationship. It's not about short-term. Short-term is fundraising. It's selling cookies. It's having car washes. And I don't knock those things for raising money, but I've found that if I want that firm foundation, I've got to do the things that are going to keep a person for a lifetime. If someone gave me a choice, would you rather have $1,000 now or $10 a month for a lifetime? I'll take the $10 a month for a lifetime every time. I look back at those individuals. I have people that made commitments to my wife and I in 1984, $50 a month, $100 a month. Those people have continued on over 40 years, Jason. I mean, $100 a month times 40 years, that is... We're talking of 480 months that people gave. You do the math, $100 a month, and that's one couple. So I'll take those over time.
Yeah. Well, good. The final thing in how to build a strong foundation for your nonprofit is to, can you guess?
Is host a Perfect Vision Dinner Strategy.
Why is it that we always talk about Perfect Vision Dinner?
It always comes down to that, doesn't it, Jason? But it is just so fundamental. And frankly, it is a pillar. It is a cornerstone of our foundation.
No, the Perfect Vision Dinner mentorship program is the bedrock of everything we do. And that's why we always say, you might have been hearing about the Winner's Circle and you're like, I want to join that. It's like we don't let you join it until you do the Perfect Vision Dinner.
Right.
You know why? Because the Perfect Vision Dinner is how you win new partners to your cause.
Yep.
And if you don't know how to do that, you will not know how to do the Winner's Circle.
Yeah. It's like fast forwarding a dating relationship. It's like asking my wife to marry me on the first date. She would have said no. There's no way I'd be married today if I did that. Yeah. It takes time.
Yeah. So the Perfect Vision Dinner mentorship program is really the best place to start, to build a strong foundation. In fact, we've helped many organizations that have been running for 25, 30 years, and they're doing their 30th Vision Dinner. They're doing their 40th Vision Dinner. We've got, and they've built this thing in. And that's what the foundation is, right? Is every year we do an annual Vision Dinner where we're always building and casting vision for the next couple of years.
Yeah, and they're constantly finding those major donors, skimming them off the top, and going deep with those people.
Yep. So we have a whole development system. You might have been listening to this and saying, well, I would love to have a development plan, but I really don't know where to start. I don't know what to do. I don't know who to go to. If I search for it on Google, I just get a million different ideas and suggestions, and I know that can be frustrating. So we tried at Fundraising Masterminds to give you the practical steps of what to take. It starts with the Perfect Vision Dinner, but once the Vision Dinner is over, you've raised that 100,000 and you've got that base of people, then it moves to the Winner's Circle. And the Winner's Circle is a 3-year program where we focus on teaching you how to keep those people, how to cultivate them. And then we teach you about major donors. We teach you about peer-to-peer fundraising. We teach you about foundations and plan giving and asset giving and estate planning, wills, trust, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. So it's something that you can't implement all these things at once. So the way that we kind of approach the whole thing is, let's just start somewhere. And then we're going to walk you through the process of getting you to the point where you are sustainable and you're building a skyscraper, but we can't, if we just tell you everything all at once.
Yeah.
In fact, the first time we started the Winner's Circle program, like the Winner's Circle 1.0, we tried to teach everything too quickly.
Yeah.
And what happened was it just like overwhelmed everyone and nothing happened.
Yeah.
So we decided we needed to spread this out over a longer period of time, focus on, actually guiding people through the process. And it seems like that really is working well.
Yeah. Skyscraper doesn't start with the 434th floor. It starts with that foundation of things. And we start at the beginning, Jason, and the beginning is that perfect vision dinner.
Yep. So if that's something that you're interested in, we've got a QR code on the screen. You can check that out. It is by invitation only, so you do have to apply. We do one in the fall to prepare people for the spring, and we do another class in the spring preparing for the fall. The goal of the program isn't just to learn about it, but to actually do it. And so we want to make sure that you're all in when you join this. Believe it or not, there's a lot of people who just want to take the quick road. They just want to get the 100,000. And it's like, well, just tell me how to do the 100,000 so I can move on.
Yeah.
And it's like, no. We're not.
It doesn't just happen.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't just happen, but we're also we're not interested in just raising
That's fundraising. Yeah.
We're interested in getting you long-term partners and to give you a long-term sustainable plan that's going to help you build that skyscraper so that you are fully equipped to run this organization.
Fully funded for decades.
So Jim, you work for one of the world's largest organizations, $750 million budget.
Right.
And that is a skyscraper.
Yeah, it is.
It has a presence in every state in the United States.
Well, every major country in the world.
And every major country in the world. So I would say that qualifies as a skyscraper. It's not going down anytime soon.
It has a deep foundation.
Yeah, very, very strong, deep-rooted foundation. And that was not something that you just flipped on a dime.
Didn't just happen.
It took a lot of hard work. It took a lot of strategy. It took a lot of people on their knees praying and begging God for this. But it also took a lot of strategic planning.
Right.
There was a lot of programs and initiatives that were started. And there was a lot of people who just kind of said, okay, we're going to run with this. We're going to work it. We got a system. We're going to work this. And then there's, when that something happens, you pivot, you try to create more things. And so, but the point is that you're building something, you're actively working on it. It doesn't just happen, because someone decided I'm going to build a skyscraper.
Yeah. Right. Right.
So, anyways, check out the Perfect Vision Inner Mentorship Program and fill out the application. If you're interested, we will definitely get in touch with you and see if the program is right for you. Let's talk. We're available to have an introduction call and to talk through all these things with you, but we'd love to help get the ball rolling.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's it for this episode of the Fundraising Masterminds podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please let us know in the comments. Let us know by telling us what you liked, what you didn't like. Where are you at in the spectrum of things? Are you in the short-term mindset or are you in the long-term mindset? Share this with your friends. If you know someone who is trapped in the short-term mindset and you think this might benefit with them, just hit that share button and text them the link. It's so easy to share content these days. Yeah. And as always, we'd love it if you would subscribe to this podcast because we don't want you to miss any future ones.
Right.
Well, Jim, any final words that you want to mention about this?
No, once again, just reinforcing the fact that if you want your organization to succeed, if you want to still be in existence 75 years from now, you've got to build that deep foundation. And that's what we're talking about today.
Yeah. Well, that's it for this episode of the Fundraising Masterminds. We will see you next time.
Take care.